Hey everybody, welcome back. It's patch 8.3, and this time I'm going to show you a new build, Tanky Aftershock Tiger Stance. This build is designed for frontlining in team fights, being as tanky as possible, while also dealing heavy area of effect damage. This build was voted on by my subscribers. If you would like to participate in these polls in the future, be sure to subscribe. Aftershock was just recently changed last patch. It got a lot of changes, but to summarize that wall of text, basically they made two main changes to this rune. First of all, they took some of the damage it already had from the base damage and the health scaling, and they just shifted some of it to AD and AP scaling. It never had AD and AP scaling before. This means if you build items like Black Cleaver and Titanic Hydra, like we're going to be building, that give you both health and AD, you can get scaling from both of these stats and do a lot of damage. And then secondly, they made it give much more flat resistances when you engage with your hard CC, but it no longer increases your resistances by 30%. So this means that you don't want to build early resistances as much as before, but you want to get more health instead, because the flat resistances are going to combo well with your high health to make you tanky. So our first two items are really the key to this entire build. The Black Cleaver and Titanic Hydra will give us a ton of health and AD, and when we team fight, every single enemy that gets hit by our Titanic Hydra area of effect, which is a pretty big area, they will all get their armor shredded by our Black Cleaver, which is going to help all of our physical damage teammates do more damage. Later we'll just get more health and armor magic resist, and as we continue to get more tanky into the late game, that's going to make our Titanic Hydra do more damage as well as our Aftershock. So you have a general idea of how the build works, but let's just quickly go over the full build order. We're going to start level 1 with a rejuvenation bead instead of refillable potion because we're building a TM mat, so we can save a little bit of money. In the early game, you want to pick up the TM mat, phage, basic boots. The first item you want to complete is Black Cleaver because this is going to give you some important stats. You're going to get attack damage, 20% CDR, a lot of health, scaling from the AD and the health for your Aftershock damage, and also you get that movement speed passive, so as you attack champions, you gain movement speed in combat. So Tiamat, then Black Cleaver, and then after that, if you want to get some extra damage, this is the time to do it, before upgrading your Tiamat. So there's a few situational choices here, depending on your current game. If you're against mostly physical damage, pick up an Iceborne Gauntlet. If you're against mostly magic damage, pick up a Malmortius. Otherwise, maybe you're against a very tanky enemy team, 3 or more tanks on the enemy team, then pick up Blade of the Rune King because that's going to counter the tanks. But in general, don't get more than one extra damage item because you're going to be pretty squishy if you do that. That's just going to defeat the purpose of playing this rune. For the other runes, we're taking Unflinching so we can get as much tenacity as possible for team fights. Alternatively, if you want to be better at split pushing instead of grouping, you can take Demolish instead of Unflinching. The next rune is situational to every game. Most of the time you want to take Conditioning against a balanced physical and magic damage team, but if the enemy team is mostly physical damage, you want to take Iron Skin, and if the enemy team is mostly magic damage, you want to take Mirror Shell. And then finally, Overgrowth. Then for the secondary tree, we're taking Precision so we can get 9% attack speed from having this combo with Resolve. We're taking Triumph. Remember that the Triumph health scales with your max health, so the tankier you are, the more health you'll get back from assists. Legend Tenacity, again, this is better for grouping and team fights, but if you want to be better at doing damage on your own, take the attack speed instead of Tenacity. Alright guys, for the gameplay I'm going to show you two different games as usual to give you a little bit of variety. The first game is going to be an early game snowball victory, and then the second game was much harder to win because all of my lanes lost, but I was able to get fed enough to carry the game. Did not have enough time to kill raptors, but we got our level 3 instead from Scuttle. Then I just went back into my jungle to kill wolves, and then moved down towards raptors. When attacking small raptors, I'm attacking 4 times in each stance, but also making sure not to attack any very low health raptor with a tiger proc. I don't want to waste that extra damage. Then after raptors, my blue buff expires. Let's just leave a ward at red buff to make sure it doesn't get stolen while I'm at base. And we're just going to have enough to pick up a Stalker's Blade. I'm not going to build Tiamat first, just because I didn't have enough to get it the first recall. So instead of building 2 longswords, I thought it would be better to get the Chilling Smite for that small power spike. Then hopefully next recall I can get that Tiamat. That ADC is very low health, so I'm just going to focus at ADC and ignore the support. Guaranteed kill on that ADC. Then after that, let's go back to our Krugs. But there's nothing else to kill nearby in the jungle, so after this, even though we still have more mana, let's just go back to base. Let's pick up our basic boots and 1 longsword. So we don't want to wait too long before getting our basic boots because that's going to be important for catching people for ganks. And remember, on the first clear, we took our blue buff and then the enemy red buff, so we're going to do the same this time because that's just about to spawn. And here I'm pretty lucky because after killing that red buff, my Tiger proc was already ready, so I can hit this Warwick with a double Tiger proc, and then just attack him a few more times to get a third Tiger proc in just 5 attacks, switch to bear stance, get that last hit. And here I would have gone in on that Xerath. If she hit that snare, I was just going to walk around the corner, stun him, and then Tiger Stance and Smite. The Aftershock was off cooldown, and I still had Flash up. Let's just steal these Raptors again. Just pop over this wall, steal some Krugs also before Warwick can get back. Then as I was killing the Krugs, I noticed on the map Warwick walked over my ward, and I see him running towards top lane. Run into Tribush around the corner, and sure enough, there he is. He's 2 levels down. Start with the bear stance just so we can trigger that Aftershock, get the extra defense, and then the added burst damage to combine with our Tiger stance. Then we just chase him down and finish him off. And we're already behind this Cho'Gath. I'm just going to start with a stun, and again switch to Tiger stance, and we got a double kill. So even though we're playing a tank keystone, it still does pretty good damage. Like sometimes I even forget that I'm playing a tank rune, and I'm just playing super aggressive, doing a lot of damage, and it still works out. Take a few minions before going back to base. But wait, here comes Cho'Gath. I guess I'll have to kill you again. Start with bear stance to proc Aftershock, and then 4 attacks in Tiger stance, switch to turtle stance, then back to bear stance. So we got almost 3,000 gold. Let's go back to base and finally get our Tiamat. Let's also grab our Phage and Kindle Gem for the Black Cleaver. So Fire Drake's alive. Let's run over there. Looks like my teammates are chasing off the enemy jungler that was trying to solo that dragon without us noticing. So we got that enemy jungler, and then we take out the dragon ourselves. Grab Raptors, red buff, and I'm going to skip the Krugs for now. I'm just going to move upwards towards Wolves, because if I take Krugs, I'm going to be in a position with nothing else to kill nearby. So if I take Wolves, I can move up to Gromp, and possibly gank top or mid. So here I noticed my top lane getting flanked by the Cho'Gath. Was not there in time to save him, but start with the bear stance, then switch to Tiger stance, then after that, if he's getting away, you can just switch to bear stance without even using turtle stance, but if you're taking damage, you probably want to use turtle stance before bear stance. Take that wave of minions, blue buff just respawned, so we grab that, and then since there's nothing else to kill in my jungle, now we go into the enemy jungle. Leave a ward in the bush. We're going to steal our 3rd red buff now. Just takes us a few seconds and we're out. Then let's steal the Raptors again too. So here's the enemy jungler right here, 3 levels down. He's already pretty low health, so we just run in here, Tiger Stance and Tiamat. Then after that, since we got double buffs and the enemy jungler is dead, now is a perfect time to kill Rift Herald before going back to base. Recall, pick up our Black Cleaver. Then I had 1,000 more gold, and since I did not have enough for the Joram's Fist, I just went for the Bommy's Cinder for Cinderhole. And I got a control ward. Don't forget about your control wards. We get Tristana's Flash and Janna's ult, so that was a pretty good use of our time. Let's try mid lane now. Since I got this extra defense from Aftershock, I'm just going to run at this guy under tower, get a kill for our mid laner, and now I'm going to go back to base, pick up our Cinderhulk, get 1 more control ward, grab red buff, and this dragon's about to spawn. But I noticed that my support was fighting the enemy support over here, so I run over here, try to get this Janna. Leona lands another snare, and we run in here. Smite, bear stance, Tiger stance, and Tiamat. We burst down before our ADC could even get an assist. Then now let's grab that dragon. And then I went back to grab my blue buff. What I probably should have done was just group up, because I'm so used to farming a lot with Dark Harvest, and I think with this build I should have probably just grouped instead. But anyways, my teammates are still doing just fine, so that's probably part of the reason why I didn't really think I needed to group. So after getting this blue buff, my Rift Herald is just about to expire, so instead of taking that to mid lane, I don't think that's going to work out very well, because the enemies are probably just going to kill it. So as they're fighting my teammates in mid lane, I'm going to run up to top lane, activate this up top. We don't even need minions, and it's going to dive tower for us. So that was pretty easy, but then when the Cho'Gath shows up, I know that I'm not going to be able to actually fight that guy under tower. So instead, we just steal the 4th red buff. So I have flash up, and when I saw this Xerath take a lot of damage, I just decided to flash bear stance on him. Then the enemy Cho'Gath rotates down towards mid lane, so now instead of trying to push mid lane, I just run down towards bot lane, which is being pushed right now by our ADC. So we're going to meet up here, quickly push down this tower, Here comes Cho'Gath. So after getting this tower, I'm just gonna actually try to kill this Cho'Gath, because now he's not under his tower, and this time I think we could actually probably just pretty easily kill this guy, because I was already able to 1v1 this guy before. So we got that Cho'Gath, we got the Misfortune, and now we're just gonna keep pushing, attacking this bot inhib tower. Then the Warwick ults right past me to go for this squishy ADC, I guess. And I'm taking tower aggro this whole time, but I don't care. I'm so tanky. I'm just going to run it at this Xerath. Finish off that guy too, and then finish off the tower. I don't even have any armor yet. So then we were just taking out the inhibs. I was going to go back to base and spend all this money, but then the enemies surrendered. So that's the end of the first game, but let's move on to the second game. That was a lot harder to win. So we start off this game with my ADC recalling and not leashing because he took a little bit of damage, and then he proceeds to spam pings, and that is how you get muted very fast. Just blue to wolves, and then level 3 from red buff. Jump over the wall. Do we want to gank top or mid? I'm going to try that top lane Swain because he's pretty pushed, he's pretty squishy, and he's not very mobile. So just keeping our passive stacked up, alternating between bear stance and turtle stance as we're running into lane. And there goes his flash. So now we switch to bear stance, stun him, trigger that aftershock. We get that first blood. Now let's just go into the enemy jungle to see what we can find in here. I see a lot of comments asking when is a good time to invade, or what matchups are good to invade against. Well, I invade against every single matchup, and I just always invade when I don't have anything else to kill. So when my entire jungle is dead, or if I can't gank the nearby lanes, just run into the enemy jungle and kill whatever I can find, whether it's the enemy jungler or the farm. Udyr's 1v1 is very strong as long as you count your attacks and attack the exact perfect amount of times in Tiger Stance and Turtle Stance to get the maximum number of procs. Get our third kill. Go back to base. That's going to be enough to get our Tiamat basic boots. So then looking at the map, the wolves are dead, so instead of running towards the bottom half of the map, we're just going to run towards raptors, then towards Krugs. Then what's the next closest thing? We can't gank top or mid because the enemies are not pushed, so then we invade. And our wolves respawn by now also, so we're just going to pass through mid lane as my mid laner recalls, take a wave of minions, and then move on towards our wolves. And then from there we're going to continue down through our jungle. So we basically just made like a big S route through 3/4 of the map, and we killed everything pretty efficient. Even though we don't have a lot of attack speed from the runes, we can still have pretty good clear speed, I guess. And after that long clear, we finally ran out of mana, but we finish it off with a blue buff dragon number 1. I noticed the enemy mid lane running up here to dive my top laner, but we got our red buff on the way up there. Now we're just going to cover his lane while he's dead, and we're actually probably just going to be able to kill the Swain because he's still squishy. Just running behind this guy, start with a bear stance, switch to tiger stance, and activate Tiamat. See, this is why I say it doesn't even feel like you're playing a tank rune sometimes if you get fed enough. After getting this killed, took a couple waves of minions, and then moved on to the enemy jungle. There's the enemy Mumu right there, 2 levels down. I see the low health Aurelion. I just run in from behind and use flash to make sure that I get that kill. And that is 5 kills. So let's go back to base, pick up our Phage and Kindle Gem. But I don't have enough to finish Black Cleaver, so I'm going to use the rest of my money to pick up a Stalker's Blade and a Control Ward. Join up with my top lane here as we gank this mid lane. Shen's coming in to taunt. Whoops, juked. Stun him. Switch to Tiger Stance and Tiamat. And he's dead. Then a minute later, I was sneaking around in these bushes up in top lane. Shen and Swain are up here. They engage on my top laner. They don't see me here. So I focus Swain first because he's more squishy than Shen. Then just switch back to bear stance and repeat the same thing for Shen. Now we get this top lane tower. Let's check to see what we can find in here once again. Steal his frog. Steal his wolves. And here the enemies are trying to get this ocean drake. So I really can't do anything about this. I also don't have smite anyways, so I just walked away. It's only an ocean drake though, so at least it's not fire or mountain drake. So this game was a pretty interesting game because the enemy team was a pre-made 5 and they built an all-tank team. So this game was a perfect game to build Blade of the Rune King, so that's what I did. That's 7 kills. Let's check the scoreboard. So our mid lane is 1 and 4, top lane's 1 and 3. Our ADC is 3 and 1, so he's doing pretty good for now. I was trying to get this Mordekaiser, but then when his teammates showed up, I just ran away. But this Aurelian is chasing me pretty hard. And he's still chasing. And here comes a Shen with his taunt. Whoops! Juked. I get exhausted now. Try to stun this Aurelian once just to buy enough time. But still, he's able to catch up to me. They had to ruin my perfect game. So here the enemies use Rift Herald in mid lane, and they have 4 of them here, so they get a pick on our ADC. Their Shen is pushing bot lane, so he's ready to teleport in, and we're just trying to save this tower long enough for our ADC to come back up. But then Yasuo lands a double knockup, so I followed up and stunned the Aurelian because he's pretty squishy, so we can burst that guy down. Then I switched to the next most squishy target, the Swain. Now Mumi's pretty low, so now we get that guy next. Enemy Shen teleports in, so instead of focusing the Shen first, I'm going to try to get that Mordekaiser because I think he's more squishy than the Shen. But then I ran out of mana, so I was stuck in bear stance, not able to do very much damage, so I just had to walk away from that. Unfortunate, because I was probably going to kill both those guys if I just had 30 more mana. But that is enough money to get my Blade of the Rune King complete, so now against tanks we're going to do so much more damage. And since nobody else on my team is really fed, I know that I got to do the damage myself. So here again, the enemies are grouped up at Dragon. It's another Ocean Drake. This time I do have Smite, and I decided to go for the Smite steal, but it ended up not being very good. Even though I got the last hit, my team followed me in, and we got instantly destroyed by that Swain. He got a Quadra. Our ADC is not even here with us. He just went up to top lane to solo farm, and then the Swain teleports to top lane and kills the ADC for a pentakill. So it is not looking good for our team at this point. So we got to try to pull out a big play and try to carry this game. And I know I'm pretty tanky, so I just engaged. I probably should not have engaged on Shen. I probably should have gone for either of the other 2 guys. But our Yasuo lands a knockup on the Shen, ults in, finishes that guy off. So now that we got that assist, we get a little bit of health restored from our Triumph Rune. So we finish off the Mordekaiser as he's left behind. Yasuo dives under tower to get that Aurelian. Now Mumu's by himself, and I'm just going to dive this guy because I have Aftershock ready. Then we get this mid lane tower. And there's a massive wave in bot lane, so I'm going to run down there and try to get that tower too. But on the way there, quickly grab the red buff. Now grab the tower. And then finally, let's go back to base. So that's going to be enough to get our Titanic Hydra to get a little bit more health. Plus the auto attack reset. And then next item, I'm going to get a Zizurot portal for the balanced mix of armor and MR. Plus the movement speed. So we don't have our mid lane, but our ADC is flanking these guys from behind, and I'm just going to try to engage. So our Jax engages, Twitch engages, here comes Soraka. Meanwhile, Twitch dies, but he does half of the health of both Aurelian Soul and Swain. So instead of finishing off this Shen, I switched my focus to Aurelian because he's more squishy. And then after Aurelian, the next most squishy is Swain. That's triple kill, and now we get that last guy, the Shen, for that quadra kill. Get another tower. Meanwhile, this 500 health Yasuo thinks it's a good idea to dive a full health of Mumu under a tower, so he dies. Then before going back to base, just grabbed a huge wave of minions from bot lane to get enough money to get our Zizurot portal complete. Now that we got that, we're going to rejoin our team. And now we're going to be a lot more tanky than before because now we're going to have more armor and magic resist. So just waiting for a good engage. So I see the Shen try to land a taunt on Yasuo. So I just run into the middle of these 5 guys, and they cannot reach my squishies in the back because I'm right here stunning them. Meanwhile, our ADC is attacking these guys from behind. Jax comes in, and all the enemies just drop like flies. It cost me my life, but my sacrifice was worth it because I soaked up a lot of damage and prevented the enemies from reaching my teammates, and that won the entire fight. I was the only one that died, and my teammates got an ace, and they got the inhib also. So then after that, a minute later, the enemies got a pick on our top laner, so then they were going to do Baron. So I didn't even try to contest that Baron because I know I would die, and that would probably just be the end of the game if I tried to fight for that Baron right there. So instead, I ran all the way down towards bot lane to drop my Zizurot. So I just dropped the Zizurot and run away because I want to draw the enemies somewhere else as that thing slowly pushes bot lane. So then looking at the scoreboard, I noticed that the enemy Swain is the most fed. So we got to kill that guy, and that's our win condition. I see Yasuo going for that Swain, and I see that opportunity. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get that Swain. So I just tunnel vision on this guy, stun him before he can get out of vision, and then 2 attacks quickly in Tiger Stance using our Titanic Hydra auto attack reset to burst him down. And now that Swain is dead, that is going to be an easy win. And guys, that is going to be just about the end of this guide. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, or if you'd like to see more videos like this. Please leave a comment if you have any questions about the build and I will reply. Thanks guys, see you next time.